In this video, we are building up these MST TDA RC drift shocks. I've never messed with them, wanted to pick them up and give them a shot. Somewhat budget-friendly drift shocks. How good are they? And we'll test them here on my Sakura D6. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy. This is RoadsideRC. You'll tend to find me bashing or crawling or drifting or racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. And honestly, I've been driving this Sakura D6 with its factory suspension now for quite a while, and it's okay, but I do believe that the factory shocks have seen their days, they've seen their use, and it is time for an upgrade. So we're going to be diving into these MSTs to see just how good they are. Let's start by getting them out of the box. We have different shock rod ends here, plus the retainer, spring retainers at the bottom. I don't know why I have a couple of these separate. It looks like they have fallen off in shipment from the bodies and the springs themselves, and that's all that's in that. For here we have our diaphragms, our E-clips, our different pistons. We have the ball ends, we have our shock shafts. Now, the thing you always have to watch, and this caught me out the last time I built a set of MST shocks, they give you the oil. It's hidden in a little pocket down here in the bottom of the box. And the last time I threw it away because I didn't know. It is a five weight mineral oil. Very, very, very thin. Should be great. The mineral oil should be good to work with the O-rings that they provide in here. 5 weight should be very thin. It's probably a good for this build. And the other thing here, we actually have a little bit of an instructions. We have a different springs and everything for tuning. We have some little aluminum parts that we can buy here with some colors on it. They show you what's included. Then over here are actual instructions for helping you figure out how to assemble it. You really don't need much in the way of tools to do this job. A pair of needle nose came in handy, a small screwdriver or an awl, something like that, especially to get the parts out of the little plastic bags. A pair of shock pliers is absolutely key. This is a pair from Echo Power that I've been very happy with. A pair of scissors and some kind of scale, because you are going to be measuring some things in millimeters in order to set it up properly. The first step here is assembling the interior piston, the piston rod. And we stick an E-clip on it. Now, E-clips are dangerous. You gotta watch these things. I've been able to come in like this, hold a finger on it, clip one in. You want to be careful though, because if you don't get it clipped all the way in, it will shoot off across your whole room and you will lose them. So you want to watch that. On top of this is going to go the pistons. We have 3 different pistons to choose from. We have the 6-hole, which it suggests putting on the rear, and we have 2 different 3-hole pistons, a larger and a smaller. And it suggests putting those larger 3 holes on the front. Now, my personal experience has been that this has not been enough in order to move oil freely, but we are going to assemble them per the factory instructions, and we're going to test them like that first. I noticed one thing that you're going to really want to watch. I don't know if it'll come across on the video here. This piston actually has a little bit of a burr on it. So this is not a machined piston like I thought they were. This is off of a parts tree, and you're going to want to be careful. If you have any of those little burrs or anything like that left over, that is going to cause drag and issues with your piston. So you're going to need to make sure it can completely deburr it. These pistons are not sighted. They're not tapered in any way, so they just go straight on. And then we stick another E-clip on top of it. The next step is taking the spring adjustment collars off the shocks, and then you're putting this little rubber O-ring in this groove that's behind there. A lot of the times it'll just pop in easy like that. If not, a little awl or a small screwdriver will help you make sure that it goes in there. You then roll those back onto the shock. What you'll notice is that it was super easy to take these off, but now with these on there, it's going to screw very tight. It's going to be kind of a stiff to turn, and that's just because you're rubbing up against that O-ring as you put it together. We then slide the pistons in here. It just slides right in, no big deal, straight through. And on this side, what I like to do is I like to take a little bit of this oil and come up and down the shaft. We're then going to be putting these O-rings on, so a lot of the times I will then take put a little bit of oil in the O-rings. What you don't want to do is scratch or tear or anything these O-rings. You want to protect them very carefully. So they go on, and then these little packing caps go in as well. How these go in, making sure that they're going in smoothly is very important. It has a lot to do with how smooth that shock moves once it's going. You want to be able to wiggle it back and forth. You want to make sure that it feels smooth going in and out, and that you don't feel any burrs, any hesitation, anything like that. We're going to be putting our rod ends on now, and note that it does come with 2 different lengths. I see these show 3 on them. These show 1, so that means these are 2 millimeters longer, I'm guessing, than the other ones. We're going to go with the longer. I typically like to have longer shocks on my car. I don't want anything to be able to reach the end limit. So we're going to try those first, and if we need to, we can swap over to the ones later. And do pay attention, the length here between the bottom of the shock and the top of this is an adjustable item. So it tells you in the instructions that they want that to be somewhere around 12.5 millimeters. But if you need your shock to be a little bit shorter or a little bit longer, you have plenty of threads to work with there where you can either extend it or shorten it down a little bit more. And as you're putting these on, please use a good pair of shock pliers. I can leave a link to these down in the video description. Again, your shocks moving and their shocks moving freely and smoothly is super important when it comes to RC drifting. And you want to not have that shock shaft scratched at all. If you use a pair of pliers like this, it'll help hold that shaft nice, and you will not end up with any kind of scratches or issues on it. It's now time to put the oil in. Pull the piston down, put the oil in, fill it almost full, and then you're gonna slowly at first work that piston up and down. You're going to get a bunch of bubbles out of the top of it. A bunch and a bunch. Okay, as you do, the level should go down a little bit. Add in some more oil. Keep pumping it up and down. All right, the goal is to get a smooth motion. I'm no longer hearing any bubbles squish, squish, squish sound. I'm not hearing that anymore. It sounds nice and smooth. All the bubbles are coming to the surface. We're going to let these sit here for a minute, and it just naturally allows those bubbles to escape up through that oil and pop out to the atmosphere. That's what we want. No bubbles, only fluid. We're now going to assemble the top damper cap here. Now, I'll be honest, I've never had to assemble one before. These usually come molded as one piece. It's interesting. They provide little rubber O-rings if you want them in there. I tried it on the first one, and honestly, yeah, they seemed a little bit too big. Made the assembly really difficult. I'm going to skip it for the rest of them, and we're going to hold it here, tighten the parts together, and you end up with that. Now, again, this is adjustable. You could end up screwing that in or out. This is a good moment. Before we put these shocks caps on, this is where you can actually feel your piston and oil weight. How stiff is that going to be? Now, those fronts, 3 bigger holes, actually feels quite good to me. The rears, 6 smaller holes, actually feels stiffer for me for some reason, and that's on both of the shocks. I think I might end up coming back here and actually opening up those holes on the rear. I don't really want to have to go through all this and then come back and do it again, but I think that's going to be a good idea. It feels like those holes with this weight of oil are just not quite moving enough, and it's going to be rather stiff. I went ahead, took the shocks back apart, drilled out all 6 of those holes to 1 millimeter instead of the 0.8 that they are from the factory, and you can feel it's better. It's definitely better, but I do wonder, there's still a little bit more drag than what I would have expected, and I wonder if these O-rings down here, if they're quite right or not. Like, I think by the time we assemble them, this is going to be fine. But if you're looking to win your local comp or, you know, some big regional comp, there might be some more tweaking with like a low friction O-ring that needs to go in the bottom there. All right, now this step is very important. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff at one time. So you're going to be compressing this to about 4 millimeters. It's actually a tuning item, but the instructions say about 4. You're going to then very carefully take this O-ring and slide it in. You don't want to trap any air in there. You're going to squish out some oil when you do it. You're going to put a little spongy thing up there, put this cap on, and then screw this on. Now there is such a thing as getting this cap too tight, so you got to be careful with that. You don't want to compress that as anything. Now this should be close to that 4 millimeters that you started with, and if you did it right, when you compress it, it'll come back out. When you extend it, it'll come back in a little bit. And there you go. That means that shock is nice and sealed and you don't have any air in it. As you put the springs on, note that MST puts a little paint mark on them to denote which ones are which. So you're going to put that paint on. The reds go to the front here for these instructions. You're gonna put that bottom cap on. Assemble them to whatever vehicle you're putting them on and get a feel for them. And yeah, I'd say those fronts feel a little stiff, a little over rebound. We may have to do something with them. Installed over here on the rear, feeling pretty good. Now, of course, we are here with the oil, springs, pistons, and everything that came exactly with those shocks. This is just a starting spot for you. You're going to want to end up, of course, tweaking different springs front and rear, maybe different oils, maybe drilling out the pistons like I did. But I'll be honest, like here with this is my Sakura D6, feels pretty decent. It's definitely worth a shot just here, and I think definitely an upgrade versus the factory Sakura D6 shocks. They were definitely a little sticky, and the more I kind of work these in, the more they feel. This maybe still slightly too stiff in the rear. We'll have to do something with that, but you know, we want the rear to squat. We want that power to transition and squat down there. Front feels a little bit too stiff. I just sprung a little bit too a little bit too much spring up there maybe. So some stuff like that we need to tweak, but overall I think they're a quality shock. I think the only thing I can't answer for you now is longevity. You know, does this shock leak over time? Leaky shocks on drift cars really suck. So, you know, is that something that will happen? I just can't answer that now because I just put them on. So if you see that this video has been published 6 months ago, a year ago, something like that, and you're watching it, then leave a comment down below and ask me how they're doing now, and I'll be happy to respond back and give you what is the latest and how they're doing and anything that I've done to tune on them since right now. So if you're interested in buying these, there'll be a link to them down in the video description. And if you are curious about any other kind of drift tech stuff that I have done in the past, there'll be a playlist that'll be popping up over to your right. And I hope to see you in one of those videos. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.